Good morning, everybody. My name is L.Sashin, and welcome to the virtual breakfast session. Today, we're going to be speaking about the money that you have or will be receiving from the Restaurant Rescue Fund and SBA loans, and how you might wisely spend that money to bring your restaurant up to current trends, up to current standards and expectations. Before we start speaking about the subject, I'd like to go around the room and have our speakers on our panel introduce themselves. Marc, would you go first, please?
Thanks, Larry, and thanks for having us on this. Marc Fuchs, I'm Executive Vice President of Singer M. Tucker, World Company, $150 distribution of food service equipment, supplies, and disposables.
Thank you. Christian.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me. It's Christian Arkay-Leliver, Design Director and founder of Arkay-Leliver Atelier. We're a design firm focusing on hospitality, bars design, and restaurant and hotel work.
Thank you, Christian. David.
Thanks for having me. David Pellon, Vice President and Director of Operations for New York Hospitality Group out of White Plains, New York. We manage and own cafes, catering companies, and a restaurant, full service restaurant.
Thank you. Manny.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on this morning. My name is Manny Araujo. I'm Director of National Accounts with Restaurant Technologies, and we have three products. That is the bulk cooking oil and Hood and Flue.
All right. Thank you, Manny. Ryan.
Hi, thanks for having me here. My name is Ryan Dean. I work for a restaurant equipment food truck manufacturer, One Fat Frog. We're based in Orlando, Florida. We specialize in food truck builds throughout the country. And I am so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, guys, remember to speak up. Daniel.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for having us on, Larry. I work with EMV Architects. We're an architectural design firm specializing in food service design across everything from your mom and pop restaurant to capital improvement and infrastructure and transportation. My apologies.
Thank you. Thank you. George.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Georg. I'm the president of Valiant Technology. We're an IT managed service provider located here in New York, but we work nationally. We are a full service IT company from service desk all the way through VCIO and security services. With one of our verticals we work in is hospitality. So thanks for having us all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Fred, you want to say hello? Did we lose Fred?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm Fred Clashman. I'm the publisher of Total Food Service. Work with Larry to coordinate this. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Looking forward to your thoughts.
Okay, and Bob.
Yes, so I'm Bob Heiss, Larry's partner in this venture, and we enjoy putting these panels together and find a lot of great information comes out of it and is shared. So we're looking forward to a robust discussion today.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and this is being recorded, so remember, it's being recorded.
Keep the cursing to a minimum.
Right, keep please. Dan, you and I had a little conversation yesterday. You had found an interesting article, and why don't we kick off the conversation with that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of those people that every morning opens up the Wall Street Journal and sees what's going on in the world. That's my news outlet, at least. And a couple weeks ago, came across an interesting article that was kind of detailing, a step-by-step plan and what they feel will be the future trends of the hospitality industry and the food service industry, etc. And so the first start of the article had an interesting point, which I know Larry and I resonated with, which is, think about it this way, and I don't know, I know a lot of you are from around the country, but if you know New Jersey and you know the East Coast, you know Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy came through and ripped through and destroyed restaurants left and right. Well, I can tell you today that none of those restaurants look the same as they did when they stood there before. A lot of them totally reinvented. And so the article kind of spearheads in saying, treat COVID as if it was a hurricane. It came through, it ripped down, it destroyed your restaurant. Would you build it the same? No, you wouldn't leave it the same. You'd recreate it, you'd bringing it up to the 21st or to the current time. And so that's sort of, the launch point of just a thought process as you start to plan for whatever changes you'd like to make to your facility. Again, those changes could be as simple as just removing and selling tables to create a profit. They could be as simple as shifting to bar seating instead of, once bar seating is now getting back to being allowed, shifting to a bar seating style. So again, working in architecture, we deal with a lot of clients, again, on more unique one-off concepts as well as branded concepts. And in both avenues, branded concepts, a lot of them already had infrastructure for grab and go. So they didn't really have to reinvent themselves all that much. You look at a Burger King, a Wendy's, etc. They already had drive-throughs. So taking that concept and not, diminishing a fine dining restaurant. Of course, you don't want to relate a fine dining restaurant to a Burger King. But what our recommendation is if you have the space allocated to it, it could be as simple as a corner of your restaurant and a table to create a grab and go area. I'm sure many of you may have already done this that are restaurant owners. So taking that and then kind of scaling that, you can invest in a vast array of products and technology, and I'm sure Christian can speak to this as well when he comes on. But there's hot lockers, there are just cubby systems, there's different keypad entry codes, so when you would arrive at your restaurant, you could open up the door and get your food, or it could just be as simple as utilizing your host. So additionally, I think, again, just staying on that technology for a second, a lot of the space planning is not too crazy. I mean, there are two ways about it, right? You can just remove the tables and start to build in more millwork to have more area for preparation, which is always a good investment because kitchen space is very desirable and can always be utilized for different options as well.
Let me break in for a second. David, because this plays right into what David Pellon and his company is doing. And I want to move over to that and come back to you again. Sure. David, talk a bit about your hostess section, the things you're doing with that.
Well, we did. We had to go to that new model of mostly to-go food back when we were right in the middle of COVID. So we did. We took our whole front area, which was a private room, and we made that into a pickup area, staging area. And going into the future, we are going to do pretty much a full gut in the restaurant. We have a full service restaurant. We're going to do a full gut, and part of this gut is going to rebuild a new host stand area with cubbies for to-go order, and we're going to centralize. We're going to have two restaurants, sort of. So in the middle, let's say we're going to do a Neapolitan pizza restaurant. So we're going to use some of these funds to take our outdoor patio and turn it into a full service Neapolitan healthy kind of pizza restaurant, and then we're going to have our full service restaurant as well. And we're redesigning where there's a hallway in between. That's going to become the host area and the to-go area. And we put a lot of thought into it because we really feel like that's going to be the future. And on top of that, we're going to bring in a new POS system, Toast, which connects in with DoorDash, which can manage deliveries for us, which we've been challenged with. So yeah, we're putting a lot of thought into it.
Yes, Christian. Christian has designed some really beautiful spaces, some of which I've eaten in. And what are your feelings about this new? You used to have to design an interior and the exterior of a restaurant. Now all of a sudden, restaurants that the only takeout was what you didn't eat, and they brought and you gave you a package to send out. Now takeout is huge. Now you have to design the interior, the exterior, and the exterior eating spaces in many restaurants. So what is this next step that an existing restaurant might be able to use? What's the idea that they should be thinking to bring themselves up to trend?
It's an interesting concept in general. I struggle with the fact that I don't believe a knee-jerk reaction should happen in general. I think that this is going to be a slow burn. COVID will go away. We're gonna transform spaces somewhat to what David was sharing. I mean, we definitely did that in a lot of spaces that we designed through COVID. I mean, we did that transition. The front door areas in the hostess stations became the takeouts. We completely called an audible. Everybody did that. It was great. And now we're learning how to transition into more of that, appealing to the public and creating those types of spaces. But, you know, Sweetgreen's been doing that for, 10 years, 15 years. I mean, they've had that, to-go cubby system in their kind of fast service, fast casual business. So I think transitioning to the restaurants, though, I mean, fine dining will not go away. You're going to have people who are all going to be inside as well. I think we need to be really cognizant or sensitive to creating the spaces to be more sensitive to people who want space. So back-to-back seating, more spaced out seating. It's not necessarily 6 feet, but it's a little bit more, sensitive to how you do that. Layouts are becoming more important. Flows becoming more important. Are we going to give an area strictly for takeout, pickup? Yes, I think that's going to become a trend. I think we're going to see more of the pickup, takeout happening, even in your finer dining. We just finished a place in New Jersey, in Bernardsville. They are actually paying more attention to the out dining, making that a special experience. You're going to have the host bring it to your car. They're going to bring bags that are branded. They're going to bring nice catering, biodegradable containers. So they're focused on that avenue more. So designing the restaurants, again, to your question, Larry, really, I think we're going to be more sensitive to how flow works, how we spatially design them, both indoor and outdoor. I think that the takeout and design and construction of how that happens and an interaction with the host is definitely going to be important. I think technology is going to play a big part in that as well. So I think yes. Okay.
I have a question from the audience related exactly to what you guys are talking about. Obviously, I have a small manageable restaurant for the second year in a row. The combination dine in, take out, and now dine out has actually increased the number of meals I have to produce to the point that my service has noticeably slowed. I will have some money to invest, but no chance to increase the size of my kitchen. So perhaps, Marc, you can comment on you raising your hand.
Yeah. Before I answer it, I think Christian was spot on. During COVID, behaviors have totally changed in our industry, whether it's restaurant, corporate, or hotel, hospitality. And I think the question, that the person just asked about what they can do to change things. Like, there's a lot of technology out there, like turbo chefs or Merry chefs, which are a combination microwave, catalytic converter, and used as an oven or a microwave. And there are certain pieces of equipment that you do not need necessarily to change your hood constraints to, because I think one of the important things that people have to realize is during COVID, there are 3 things that changed. Outdoor dining is going to be with us forever. Takeout has increased incredibly. And then they have their own indoor dining. So now these restaurants and locations were formed to service a certain amount of people. And in some cases, they're going to be serving at least 2 times the amount of people they did before. So how do they find certain pieces of equipment that are actually going to work and expedite and help them do their service without changing their hood configurations and going through a tremendous amount of cost? So just to answer that question, I think they could use the microwave oven technology. I think they could use blast chillers, sous vide, depending upon the different types of restaurants and establishments there are. But there are a bunch of equipment that's out there that can suffice. Even on takeout, there's heated shelves that are 3 or 4 levels that people can form. So I'm happy to expand upon that at any point.
Okay. It's funny. My wife and I were walking through Tarrytown the other day, and on the corner, there was this really, really slammed bar that was serving as a Cuban bar, serving drinks, and they had a menu that you could have written on the back of your hand. And they had more tables than they had items on their menu. And I had a conversation with Ryan a couple weeks ago about bars, and how they are looking to expand besides what they're turning out in drinks, what they're turning out in food, because now with the new laws, they can serve drinks and take home drinks if they're serving food. And Ryan, tell some of the people what, the bar expansion, how they're doing that with your company.
Absolutely. What I love most about the food truck industry is I pretty much learn a whole new application for these trucks and trailers almost every week. And something that's applicable we're talking about now is a lot of our established brick and mortar restaurants are seeing a huge influx of online orders, stuff like that. And so instead of expanding the kitchen, putting all that money into expanding and all that stuff, they'll buy a truck and they'll have it there and they'll open it up for the lunch crowd. They'll handle all their mobile deliveries out of that. And then when that's not being used, they'll rent that out as a ghost kitchen. So there's a lot of applications for that. There's breweries here in Florida that can't sell the alcohol without food. And so what they do is they just invite a food truck there every evening and they take care of the food stuff and the breweries handle the alcohol. So there's a lot of different applications for these food trucks and trailers for already established brick and mortars. And we get the SBA loans too. There's opportunities where you can get that truck for free. So it's an interesting time to be in the food truck industry because we've just exploded this last year. And, it's because of things like that.
Thank you. Bob, you're raising your hand again.
Yeah, another question from the audience. Does potato chips count as food to enable a bar to sell drinks? Oh, sorry, that's just just made that up. No, the real question is, can you use the grant money for purchasing a truck? Is that allowed?
Yeah, we have several clients that what they have done, they've had established restaurants or they've already had a food truck. They've been in business for a while. So they qualify for the SBA loan. And we had one client come in and they put half down on the food truck, which gets it into our production line. And then they got the SBA loan for that. And then when they got
Excuse
that
me, the question was the Restaurant Rescue Fund grant.
Right, exactly.
We must keep that separate because none of us want to be sued. The Restaurant Rescue Grant money, is that allowed to be used for the purchase of food trucks?
Yes.
It is. Okay. All right. So expand on that then, please.
I mean, it's just, if you look at the list of people who can apply for the restaurant, is this the revitalization fund or is this a different fund? Sorry.
The Restaurant Rescue Act is part of the American Revitalization Fund. The name shifts so fast. Every week it's a new name. So
yes,
you know what I'm talking about. We want to separate it from SBA loans.
Yeah. So food stands, food trucks, and food carts do apply.
Okay. Mark.
Hey, Larry, what I was going to say also is that, all the equipment, we're just in the midst of dealing with somebody that's building, 50 to 100 trucks. And all the equipment that goes in there, has to fit, and that's also accepted under the revitalization plan, that people can purchase that.
Okay, we haven't touched on one thing here. It's sometimes when you go to a restaurant, they'll tell you that the order system isn't working. All of a sudden, they've got orders coming in from online. They've got orders coming in from the bar. They've got orders coming in from a telephone. They have orders coming in from the waiters. And they're dealing with a Wi-Fi system that has been developed 8 years ago. And George, would you make a comment on that?
Absolutely. I was actually going to say, when David said he was doing the transition to Toast and integrating with DoorDash, that's a really great opportunity to upgrade point of sale, just a point of sale system, but a lot of underpinning infrastructure in the restaurants, especially if you're tearing it apart to rebuild the space. When we see a lot of times in restaurants, the just the basic infrastructure, cabling, Wi-Fi, some of the IT security is not part of the plan. It's not thought of, or it may not work with someone who does it at a certain high level, let's say. And it doesn't need to be terribly expensive, but there's a good, there's some best practices that are generally not followed where, I'll give you an example, like many restaurants, no one does a Wi-Fi survey of a restaurant before it's built. So you might have dead spots in the restaurant where if you have like a handheld device, mobile credit card processor, all of a sudden you can't process there, or your staff can't take orders, and just becomes just ruins the experience and it slows down the kitchen. Another one we always see just trouble tickets we know is printers, kitchen printers. Kitchen printer goes down, that backs the kitchen up, and now that you're doing double the amount of orders, that could really add up. So what we always say to folks is if you're in the midst of a rebuild or renovation, which sounds like many people are here, it's a good opportunity to do this Wi-Fi survey, understand what the environment looks like, because just as we get more and more reliant on these point of sale systems, you can't have the outage. Also, the other thing I'd highly recommend is always have a backup, either 4G or 5G ISP to keep that system up and running so you can process.
Thank you. Bob's got his hand raised again.
All right, so another question from the audience. Has the incidence of, since the proliferation of more Wi-Fi use with POS systems and the billing and all that stuff in restaurants, has the incidence of hacking into that and gathering data increased? Is that a greater danger now than it was 2 or 3 years ago?
I think that any business has a greater danger to that. It's not just the Wi-Fi in and of itself, but now if you're having people taking emails, that could be a vector for attack. It's called phishing. A lot of people, you have some, say not technology savvy folks working in the restaurant back office. Chef might be taking, doing orders. You want to make sure that they have at least a basic understanding how to use the tools properly and give them the standards that protect multi-factor authentication, the kind of things that would protect them and protect the restaurant. The last thing you want is to have that kind of breach or reputation damage to the restaurant. Saying, hey, this, you have to send out to all your customers that, hey, we had a breach. Someone was in our point of sale system. Your credit card might have had a problem. Also, if you're doing, a lot of times you also falling under PCI compliance. So that's another consideration: segmentation and network, understanding where each asset is and documenting it.
George,
Yes.
Explain PCI.
Oh, it's called payment card. It's basically the payment card industry. It's a consortium of self-regulation by Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and what it does is its idea here is to self-regulate how credit cards are managed and processed to prevent fraud and breaches, that sort of thing. So
are restaurants? Let me break in again.
Sure.
Are restaurants, we had this conversation at the Strategic Advisory Board the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Are restaurants liable for these audits that you were mentioning about?
So it gets a little complicated. The processor is the one who's directly responsible for it. But if you're the end user and your restaurant is found or your site is found to be part of the breach, you have a level of responsibility because you have to report and attest that you're following the PCI audit compliance, like, so as I said, the segmentation, training, antivirus, that sort of thing. So it's a pretty important. So in the end, you might lose your ability. The penalty could be some cost or penalties, or the ability to process credit cards.
Okay. I think we should go back to pads and paper and pens again. It was slow but simple.
Got to get the knuckle buster out, slide it across, right?
Yeah,
a lot safer. So
yep. Dan, we're right to you, Christian. We're talking about now where, our target audience is small to medium-sized restaurants. So you have a limited amount of space. And one of the things that I know, I talk about my wife. One of the things that my wife has a problem with is people standing right next to her when they're coming in. So how, and maybe Christian, you could expand on this after, how do you alleviate that jam up around the front desk and the bar and make it flow and yet still accommodate the people that are coming in and out in a limited amount of space?
So the first thing that I wanted to also just touch on before is the other thing just to think in any of these situations is, and I'm sure Christian can vouch for this too, there is no one solution, right? Every single restaurant is so unique. Every single space is so different. And You know, for example, I live in New Jersey, and around the corner, you know, you have a pizzeria that has 3 restaurants, medium size, but they have 3 restaurants. So they decided to take, you know, a back step and say, all right, well, we'll keep this one as a sit-in pizzeria. This one is now only grab and go because we feel that area is better for it. And this one is now fine dining. And, you know, looking at that from an overarch, where before it was fine dining, fine dining, fine dining. Now they've revolutionized it to meet the market. So number one is that. And then to jump into your direct question is, you know, in planning those spaces, when I was talking to the owner for a while about this, when they looked at the spaces they had, of course, they looked at the demographic of the area and which would match, but they also looked at the spaces that they had leases on themselves. And so, for example, the one they chose to use as a grab and go had front and back door egress for, you know, guests, not just for front of house, back of house. It actually had you walk in one side, you exit out the other side. So again, to Christian's point, circulation, looking at circulation patterns, looking at how you're putting the pieces of millwork in there. Yes, maybe you want this big elaborate, you know, counter, but is that big elaborate counter going to, you know, prevent from having customers have a safe amount of room? You know, the other thing is that we've been seeing is adding in on those, again, more like pizzeria style things is a retail component, which is really helping to boost, you know, revenues as well. So you walk in to the small to medium sized restaurant, and you have a counter, and where the seating area used to be is now a little retail, high-end Italian, you know, shop, whether it has refrigeration equipment with cheeses and meats, whether it has pastas. And so that's also how you're going to pull people to different parts of the restaurant, where maybe somebody's walking in and going to the back of the restaurant to just grab, you know, a meat and a cheese, or maybe somebody's walking up to the pizza counter to grab and order a pizza, or somebody's walking over to the sandwich counter. So you want to kind of try to look at how you're going to split these people up when they come in. Are they just going to go straight everyone to one counter and every order goes through that counter? No, that's probably not going to be the best solution, because you're going to have a line and people are going to be saying, I don't want to come here again because I
Freaked out.
25 minutes for my food.
Freaked out over a line. Christian,
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask David, if you don't mind, Larry. David had mentioned how
not a problem.
changes, right, or has been or is making changes currently. David, how are you challenged with your space as it is today, though? Because that's a big nut to tackle with an existing restaurant space. So how are you managing that? And it's also, if you don't mind me saying, it's also a quite a balancing act, because as an owner operator, you know, every square inch is worth a dollar. You know, let's just say it's worth money. So, you know, how you occupy that restaurant space with retail and or takeout area or waiting area, it's a guest experience. So for me, to your point about standing close to somebody, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore necessarily. I don't think a lot of people want to stand right next to each other waiting for pizza or waiting in the line. They really don't. I think people are much more sensitive. So I think the challenge is really becomes, if it's a new space, it's very easy to deal with, because you can design it and work with your owners or your landlords or your proprietors and say, hey, as from a design perspective, we want to create this space for people when you walk in. So you're either with me or you're not with me. So for David, I'm just curious, how are you challenged with that now?
The existing space, you know, in the restaurant, it's an older restaurant. It's somewhat boxy, where it has cubbies and little nooks and crannies, which in many ways has helped us out, because people have a little private area for dining for 6 to 8 people. They could have a private dining space for 20 people. And as the restaurants are opening up now, people are gathering in groups. It's seemingly like, hey, I haven't seen my friends and family for a year. We're doing a lot of events for between 6 and 25 people. So right now my space works for that. And then I believe, and Peter, my partner, believes that we're working on a design, which we have in place, and we're going to start construction next month or two. That's going to open up. It's going to open up the restaurant more. We're taking down walls. We're leveling areas that were loft areas. We're going to open it up, but we're still keeping in mind, I don't want to call it separation, but we're going to have louver doors that you can open and collapse to create small individual private dining spaces.
Making it transformable. You're making it transformable.
Exactly. It's going to be transformable. We think that's the best course of action right now. Also, when we create, we have an outdoor patio that's covered with a tent that's all year round. We're going to turn that into a structure. It's going to be a Neapolitan pizza restaurant, but we're going to put in cafe windows that really just open up, and probably a garage door that opens up to the street. So when it comes right down to, hey, we want outdoor dining, we're going to open that garage door up and on one side, and we're going to bring out tables and chairs right onto the street side and sidewalk, and we'll essentially kind of meet what people are looking for now. I mean, people are looking for outdoor dining still. They're looking for private spaces where they can just be with their friends. To your point, we've changed the design a few times along the way during COVID, where we had one thought, then we went with another thought, and then we went with another thought, just to meet what people were looking for. So, it's been an interesting road. It's really transformed into something cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for Marc, and then you could ask yours. We're talking about the flow through a restaurant. We're talking about the flow. The most congested, hot, nasty place in a restaurant is the kitchen. Where it's in the middle of the summer, it's the closest thing to hell. Marc, what do you see going on in kitchens? We were just in one of the kitchens that you people worked on. The great performance is new kitchen. I thought I was in a cruise ship. The thing was so big, it was beautiful. The flow in that kitchen was beautiful. How can a small to medium-sized restaurant adjust and move and tweak their kitchens to make what's one of the most important things, the flow of food in and out, better?
Yeah, well, I think one of the interesting things about inside a kitchen is it open enough? And with the new equipment out there, there's a lot of equipment that's much more energy efficient, that's much more insulated, that is not giving out as much air as it was before. I think ventilation, your hoods, and the air that's being drawn out of the kitchen is just as important. And one of the things I was going to ask David, as you go through this, I'm interested in understanding how much outdoor dining has expanded a restaurateur's ability to serve people. And, when you expand by, in the city, I live in New York, and I can only tell you that the outdoor dining scene is out of control right now. And restaurants have almost doubled what they were doing before. And I wonder what kind of impact that's had on dishwashing and a whole bunch of other areas within the inside of your kitchen. And everything that happens along those lines will increase the heat and the ventilation and things that are needed as you move forward. So, but I do think there are pieces of equipment that you could put under a hood that are energy efficient. And in today's world, and I'm not sure that many people know about it, but Con Ed and a variety of different energy people are actually providing rebates on equipment. I mean, we've seen convection ovens give back $1,000 or $1,500 and a variety of other equipment. So the amount of money that can come back is actually pretty large to upgrade your establishment.
Okay, what do you think about that, David?
Well, Marc hit it right on hit the nail on the head. We're, I pride myself on always being proactive, but this whole thing has spun me into a reactive situation where we've had challenges in the kitchen. We put a new dishwasher in. We're putting another dishwasher. We have a 3-level building. There's every level. Level 1 is a restaurant and a kitchen. Level 2 has a private banquet space and a kitchen. And then level 3, which is the lower lot area, is all commissary and kitchen. We're putting a new dishwasher in there, efficient dishwasher. We're scrambling to meet the needs to, hopefully save on labor, which is a big challenge now. And we've gone through efficiencies with our compressors and all of our refrigerators, and we've gotten money back on rebates. But so, and we're in a program with Con Ed. So we continually try to upgrade and stay ahead, but we've been scrambling a little bit now, and we've increased. I put a tent in the back parking lot. So I'm doing private events outside in our parking lot. We call it the garden tent. So if you can sell anything, you sell a parking lot with a tent in it. Wow, it's that's what's going on now. When people are outside and they're happy. So it's been an impact on the kitchen, and we're continually like playing around with equipment and bring in new stoves, efficient ovens. We're on top of it, but Mark, the technology changes so fast.
Well, I will tell you the technology that if you look at, just part of what you're saying, but speak to a few people, David, because like, for instance, in a dishwashing area, there's a simple thing that Cheesecake's factory uses. It's just a scrapper. It's water that's continually running that collects things, and it's just efficiencies that people aren't fully aware of. And, they're look, I've been in the industry 1 or 2 years plus, the 40. So, but there are a lot of things that are old that have been used in the past that are still very effective, in addition to the new technologies that are being formed.
Okay. Interesting. Well, Ryan, one of the things that people are doing now are they're catering in their homes. Parties into their homes. They're having people over for the first time. They have a big backyard, and so restaurants. How would a food truck be applicable to a restaurant who's doing a lot of outside catering, outside, parks, backyards?
So a big hit to the food truck industry, obviously, this last year has been festivals and stuff. And so a lot of those food trucks have had to figure things out. And quite a few of them have actually started going to like apartment building complexes and stuff. And they would set up there and they'll do the whole dinner crowd right there at this apartment complex. Food trucks are always, there's a lot of catering trucks out there that'll go out and they'll do these private events. Even office buildings are now getting food trucks. We have a whole huge office building park just down the street from us. And if you go to any one of those buildings, there's a food truck outside during lunch. So there's a lot of opportunities to get those, private party things, the apartment buildings. There's just, the food's coming to your house now. It's completely changed our industry. A lot of these food trucks that had been doing the festivals are seeing a 30% increase on their sales just by changing their business model.
Wow. Now, is this a lasting trend, or do you think this is a blip on, a seismic blip?
Well, if you look at Google Trends and you just put in food trucks, you'll see over the last 10 years, it's just been skyrocketing. And 2020 was probably pushed that industry ahead a couple of years. I don't think it's going to pop, because we're seeing established food truck parks popping up all over the city. There's one down the street, it's called Boxy Park, and all it does, it's a bunch of shipping containers, and they're all in a big circle, and there's a stage in the middle, and now it's part of that whole community. We have a big food truck park down over by Disney too, and you're actually seeing these trucks pop up all over these theme parks as well. It's SeaWorld this last week with my family, and there's a whole food truck park within SeaWorld.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's amazing where you're seeing these pop up, and people are just now embracing that, the whole roach coach mentality of it, and it's not there.
I was gonna say, Ryan, to your point, I think the food truck thing is a big deal now and in the future. We're using it a lot for amphitheaters right now. We're using a lot of outdoor bars. It's very cost effective. And you buy a container for $3,500 and you deck it out. I'm sure Marc can attest to having a good cost savings on decking out a container and creating a whole outdoor bar scene now. So now you have 24 to 36 people sitting around a container that's 20 feet long, and you've probably built it out for pennies on the dollar, if you will. But the ROI on that is incredible if you have the space. I mean, obviously you need the space, but it's a great investment. You want to pick it up and move it, you can. You can rent it out. You can create a VIP area with that bar area. You can rent it out to a brand name or a vodka or an ingredient manufacturer. I mean, it's just, there's so many creative ways you can make money and a return if you have the space and you can and think of those types of opportunities.
Okay, now another problem just popped up in my head. So now we're in the restaurant, we're on the terrace, we're in the parking lot, and we have a food truck and delivery trucks all over the place. George, does this pose a security issue?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, now you have so many different pieces into play. You have people's mobile devices. You have the company on mobile devices. How do you services? And we haven't even addressed like audiovisual, music, that sort of thing. And that's where you start getting some real complications. And I think that thoughtfulness early on is part of the should be part of the design process. This blocking of food truck out there is only one part of it. But how are you going to get your point of sale? How are you going to get all those pieces? And I'm sure there's a lot of ways you do it with the 4G, but not every place has a 4G access. So now you have to do some kind of like line of sight microwave, or there's a lot of considerations beyond just plopping it on a piece of property. So, I mean, I know the food trucks, they use a lot of like, dial-up, mobile devices, but if you're trying to integrate them into a full service restaurant solution, that's a really, you don't want it to be some segmented thing. It has to be all. So you can see not only also from your cost control, those pieces of it, alcohol, that sort of thing.
So
yes.
The average person calls you after they have a problem.
Almost always. It's never. It's kind of like plumbing. No one calls us before there's a leak.
So you're, in some ways, you're like the life insurance salesperson, right?
I feel like one at times. And like you always kind of like kind of beating the drum on the dread.
What happens if?
But the same token, I think the flip side of it is for many restaurateurs or just entrepreneurs, if you can have this pieces kind of early on, you're saving money on the reactive side. That's really what happens if you can put things in play early on, and especially as you organize your back of house and kind of have that kind of thoughtful. And I'm saying it doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can be fairly low cost for very robust outcomes.
So remember the jukeboxes at every single table in a diner?
Yeah, of course.
Can you guys figure out how to install Alexa at every single table in the diner?
I don't think anyone want that, Bob. I gotta tell you, that'll go badly.
Mark,
yes,
you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what George was talking about. Like today's equipment, really, you talk about smart technology, smart kitchen, and all these different things in the industry, and all pieces of equipment, or a lot of manufacturers are starting to make it with Wi-Fi built in, so they can be proactive to know when to service pieces of equipment, how to do it. And if you think about a restaurateur's largest expense is about equipment going down, it's about service companies coming in and repairing equipment. So in some of the pieces that are being produced right now, this smart technology, whether it's walk-in boxes like we talked about, great performance, every box had an alarm on it, okay, and it goes to a central station when it goes below temperature. But you have refrigerators with smart technology, convection oven. There's a lot of equipment out there for a very minimal cost. It'll help a restaurateur be proactive on the service capabilities of equipment.
Also, as to add on top of that, the other piece of that may not be HVAC equipment, cooling and heating in the restaurant. For years, HVAC's been on network for management monitoring, but you start adding more and more devices on there. You really have to have a plan. You can't take like your kind of $49 router or the one included with your FiOS account and add on 75 devices. Which if you start counting everything inside the restaurant that needs a connection, you're getting into multiple. You might in an average size restaurant have 120 devices. When you start adding on smartphones from your guests, if you provide Wi-Fi for them, if you want to use some kind of loyalty program, that sort of thing, so collecting addresses using the Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of pieces here that you can And also, it is another piece that this as a more kind of a marketing piece. You can use your Wi-Fi gateway to collect customer addresses, and that might be a great way to say, "Hey, give us your address. We'll market to you for free Wi-Fi." And you'd be shocked how many people just running various different companies. We've done that multiple times for folks with like a splash page, that sort of thing.
Okay. You know, I'm just sifting through people. Manny, you disappeared and then came back again. Manny, we didn't get a chance to talk to you. Manny deals with grease and hood, and something that really, as David might tell you, is a real problem in the kitchen sometimes. Manny, explain to people what you do and in what size restaurant it becomes cost effective with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So a lot of this conversation talked about expanding labor with outside dining and so forth. And a lot of these establishments have been taxing their employees with many hats, also stretching them beyond hours. Where we come in and help is the back of the house, where you have some of it is the dirtiest job, cooking oil, fryers, and then your hood and flue. So where we help in the safety aspect is there's a lot of automation in our product, where we come in and to answer your question, Larry, on a restaurant, we service QSRs, corporate dining, college universities, all aspects. And basically, there's there's a little bit of technology in our system where very similar when employees are at their back of the house with fryers, they can add, filter, and dispose oil in and out of their fryers. And we deliver oil in a bulk capacity, and they don't have to pick up the phone and call us. Through technology, we know, we monitor and know when to deliver.
That's part of the Wi-Fi system?
So we don't use Wi-Fi, we use a cellular card. But as far as the monitoring piece, you know, how many pounds are they using of oil a night? And then we route their deliveries so it's seamless, they're not running out of oil. So with the employees having sometimes trying to get employees in back of the house, our system with the automation helps that a little bit. When you move over to the hood and flue, you know, there's expenses with your hood and flue, bringing in third party to clean your hoods, or bringing in, you know, inspections on your hoods and, you know, fire marshal inspections. So some of our products allow some automation and innovation in the hood and flue, where you can not have as many employees or other vendors in your kitchen. We talked about with George with the security issue. So there's some automation for to clean your hood and your flue, 2 different products that will help control the costs on that. And, you know, it's been very successful. We've been supporting our customers and looking to help them in these times where, you know, they're trying to cut costs. They're trying to have the same output of their kitchen. They're trying to make sure the maintenance of their kitchen is still up to par and be able to serve their customers as you know, we're there to help their operations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We've got 9 minutes left to go. And I want to thank you all for a great session. Like I told you at the beginning, this is going to fly by very fast. What I'd like to do is go around the horn, and if you could leave a takeaway for the people who are listening and the people who are going to be reading about this and seeing clips. And just if you were speaking to a small to medium-sized operator and giving them one tidbit, what would it be? Marc.
My one point of reference would be the world has changed, and with it, you know, how we operate businesses and restaurants and who we're dealing with, and expectations have changed with that. And I think it's important to speak to somebody that has the knowledge base and has been around and understands their industry, to try to come up with solutions and ideas that will make your business better. And, I feel that our company and what I've done for all these years is, I don't term myself as a consultant, but I do in some ways feel that I support my clients and the people I've met over the years to help them find solutions that will make their business more efficient and their equipment more efficient, and be aware of the things that are available on the market.
Thank you, Marc. Christian.
I'd say optimize through creativity. I think there's a lot of areas within existing restaurants that the spaces that you see every day, you're so used to seeing it a certain way. Think outside the box. Look at the space a little bit differently. Look at it from a guest perspective, and stand and look at the space and see where you can effectively make change that helps you, but also sensitive to the guest. So I think I would just leave it at that.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah. My strong belief is that the food truck industry is just booming, and there's so many different, so many problems out there with the mobile solution that a lot of people are now embracing, and it's never been an easier time to get a mobile solution. There's loans and the SBA loans and all these things going on. Explore your mobile solutions, see how expanding your kitchen through a food truck, through a trailer, a ghost kitchen. These are all really good, cheap, affordable options right now that are going to help you, get out of this pandemic.
Thank you. David.
Well, the best takeaway I can give anybody in any business right now, and for our particular restaurant, catering, cafes, it's the rebuild. Make a list. Make a list of everything that was wrong, that you had problems with when you were busy, and rebuild your business back piece by piece. Look at every corner of it, from technology to like things that George is talking about, and Marc with equipment. All these things just hit it right on the head. You have to rebuild, and you have to do it smart. You have to do it the way that you really want it to be done. And that's gonna lead you into the next 20 years of success. So my advice is make that list and go after that list one thing at a time.
Okay, thank you. Manny.
I would say if you're looking at your establishment or rebranding yourself, look at your innovation and customer experience. Have that set right off the bat. But most important, look at the back of your house, the kitchen, on innovation, without taxing your employees. What can I change? What equipment can I change? How can I upgrade? To at least have your employees do what they do, and not strap them down on other tasks that can be moved to automation, and still run your business in a successful flow.
Thank you. George.
I was to say, just kind of echoing what everyone said, this is a great inflection point to review what's in place, especially around the technology, and especially as you're adding more services and becoming more reliant on these technology services. So it's a great time to kind of say, okay, we're rebuilding the restaurant, or we're changing our concepts, we're breaking things down, and just say, if and to start working your way backwards of like what didn't work, what were the kind of the pain points, such as, hey, I can't process orders, we lose access to the kitchen, we lose access to our smart technology, so we're not getting our service we need, and just put it together and make it part of the overall business plan, and don't segment it away from the day-to-day, right? It is a core piece of your business, such as same thing as if you're ordering or back of house kind of operations. So that's it. So make it integral to your planning.
Okay. Last, you started it off, Dan, and the last participant comment. Take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of piggyback Christian as well, which is, just look at your spaces and think about maybe how you can reinvent it in little ways. Again, going back to bring it back to the beginning, the hurricane element, David, you kind of played to it, right? Which is, if a hurricane came through, you would look at every part of your building and say, well, did I really need that? Do I really need this? And it's that same aspect. And again, just really understand your clients, understand your market, That's what I couldn't drive home more is understand what your restaurant is, who you serve, and how that community feels. Every community feels totally different at this point, whether you live in a rural or an urban or area. It totally changes the dynamic of how you're serving your clients. So.
Thank you. Bob.
So in my short but very colorful life, I've been through a number of downturns, business downturns, in either localized or segmented to markets and industries, or just general economic trouble. Hurricane Sandy, the 2000 dot-com bubble, all of that stuff. And it is extremely painful for all businesses, no matter what you're in. And lots of people don't make it and have very diminished profitability afterwards. However, the opportunities that come out of this are incredibly large, and the food business will go on, restaurant business will go on. I think what George and David and Marc, really what everybody is talking about is take a look at that, at where you are and where you're going to be, because for in every downturn, fortunes are made on the ensuing upturn. So keep your eyes open.
Thank you. Freddie, you still with us?
I am.
All right. What do
Thank
you
you,
think?
everybody, for joining us. I appreciate it. My thought is the following. Don't fall in love with hospitality anymore. Embrace food production. Learn how to produce food profitably. And just because you don't get the opportunity to serve it to somebody who's sitting in your restaurant face to face, for whatever the reason, doesn't mean that you can't build an incredibly profitable business. And the piece that goes with that is, look at your hand and look at that smartphone and ask yourself, how do I use this to reach potential customers and potential clientele in a number of different niches? Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you all for taking time out of your day and joining us, to the participants, to the attendees, to those people who are going to read or listen to us later on. I do this, we do the breakfast sessions to inform, but yet we always learn. And I love every single one of these, and I thank you all once again. And we are going in 2 weeks' time. I believe it's the 6th. If you check Eventbrite, we're having another one where we have a very talented group of owners and chefs going to be talking about their experience during the pandemic and what they plan for the future. And just 2 more things to everybody. Please, please stay positive and test negative.
Will do.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
day.
Bye now.